Hi, everybody. I'm super excited to be back at Day of Security again this year. And thank you for taking some time out of your day to sit with me digitally and chat about something that I find very funny when I sat through and did my slides. I was supposed to do this talk last year elsewhere, and I didn't get a chance to do so. So I'm glad that I got my life together where I could do it this year. Again, my name is Terra Cooke, and I am here to talk about cue up my slides. Boom, there we go. Vendor management, Tinder, but make it corporate. So first things first, I want to also start by saying I love Tinder. I just don't love online dating. Also, this isn't necessarily meant to teach someone or anyone how to do vendor management in particular, as much as it is about making comparisons, considering this is some stuff that we actually end up doing every day in real life. And I always find it very important to make sure that we can take the things that we do in our day-to-day and translate them to security, GRC, tech, the world, whatever. So that's just like my tiny little disclaimer here, but now getting into it. So online dating is hell. At some point or another, it's very possible that us in this digital room has tried online dating. If you've been fortunate enough to not have to be out in these digital online dating streets, take it as one thing to potentially be thankful for in your life, because let me assure you, it is the trenches. It is awful. There's not just pee in the pool, it's pee, poop, razors, and everything else that is not good. So in case people have thought like, oh, maybe she's not being real about this. No, this is my real Tinder profile. No, I did not make this for the sake of this where we at conference today. Like, this is my real profile. Been a card carrying member of the online dating scene since 2014. When they say I don't have the t-shirt, or I have the t-shirt, I don't just have the t-shirt, I have the whole clown suit to online dating. So that's me in a nutshell. Vendor management, it's also hell. Anyone who has been in the security and or GRC specific space, very possible that you've had to deal with vendor management. If you have seen me around a few times or ever spoken to me, I talk about how much I hate it, because I do, and I have very strong feelings about how much I hate vendor management. To the point where, what was this? 6 days ago when I took this screenshot, so maybe about a week ago now, actually, I had this fun thing that I posted onto the LinkedIn's, which has, ironically, people are still like commenting in the thread, but whatever, it's fine. These are my thoughts about vendor management. I hate it. It's hell. But for this particular thing, I prefer not to be circumvented very specifically. Okay, so that's great, cool. I mentioned that it's a comparison. We're talking about how these two things are very similar, but like, where are the actual overlaps that we can get into? Ready? Hopefully everyone's ready. All right, so first things first, phishing. It's a lot of phishing. You have phishing for your attention, phishing for compliments, phishing for your business. We can also make the fun jokes about like phishing as far as text messaging is concerned, but I'm going to stick to regular phishing. And then you also have solicitation. So they're soliciting for your time, your money, activities with air quotations, because people do get very weird still in the world about what's appropriate and what's not appropriate to do when you're trying to get business, but that is neither here nor there. And then almost last, but also not least, questionnaires. So many questionnaires when you go on dates. Let's talk about questions. Where are you from? What are your hobbies? What's your favorite color? What do you like to do in your spare time? Which is part of the reason why I also hate dating, because I hate having this conversation over and over and over again. But when it comes down to vendors, you have the what's your budget? Do you have a recent STI test? Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Do you have a recent SOC report, considering both of them are just getting a latest and greatest up to date on your life and health status? Unknown. But regardless, there's so many questions when you're both dating and trying to figure out what's the best vendor to work with. I have this next slide, which I personally think is funny. Insert phishing pictures here. Weirdly enough, when I went through to try and get pictures of all the folks, at least here in Colorado, so in case some folks don't know, I live in Colorado. We don't even have water around us, really, for that matter, but that's neither here nor there. But within Colorado, there's still a lot of people that love taking pictures with dead fish. As if it's a sign of something. I'm not really sure. But when I went to try and go get those pictures, I couldn't find any. Maybe I'm like out of the fishing loop, or maybe someone heard that I was doing this, and so I couldn't get any pictures. But anyway, pretend that there are many pictures of people holding, a dead fish, as if they are very, very proud of it. And anyone who also has been out in the dating on the apps, if you will, has probably also seen them at some point or another. So hopefully you can relate. But, sometimes you come across that right profile or vendor that you'd be willing to swipe right on and figure out, like, where you could potentially see things going, things of that nature. And that's where we get to the biggest similarity between vendor management and online dating, and that is risk management. Ta-da, yay, oh my gosh, that's the whole reason why we're here, right? Right. So within my brain, I have created this totally like cool acronym risk assessment methodology that's not really a methodology. But again, it's an acronym that I put together when I thought about certain things to keep in mind when you're going through risk management assessments or things of that nature, and it's called FORT. So you have your financial risk, you have your operational risk, you have your reputational risk, and you have your technical risk. So we're going to break down and do a couple of different examples around each and how they appear in both sides of this coin. So your vendor definition, of all these definitions, at least on the vendor side, I did get them from Wikipedia, just so I could have like something very concrete to point back to. So for vendor risk, I have the definition of protecting economic value in a firm by managing exposure to financial risk. So some examples that you'll see as far as financial risk is concerned: overspending in your budgets. When you're doing vendor purchasing, or just in general, if you're overspending in your budget, you're obviously going to run into financial risk. Just a volatile market, which is something that we are currently living in for any companies that have been, trying to go public or things of that nature. I'm pretty sure you have felt that, or any folks who are CEOs and things of that nature who are also trying to go public. My thoughts are with you. And then inflation. But if I'm being quite honest, inflation could really sit in both of these little columns because it's hurting business, but I'm selfish and I feel like it's hurting us as just everyday people more. So that's just me. And then my life definitions, those are some things that I just came up off the top of my head. Me as a person, I speak slang and things of that nature. So hence my life definition being appropriate to my life. So financial risk, making sure I'm protecting my pockets from nonsense when it comes to either dating below or beyond my means, because let's all face it, it is very possible to date below your means, although people probably don't want to talk about it as much. So when it comes to your financial risk in this space, well, how much money is it costing me to go on 1 date, 2 dates, 3 dates if you're dating multiple people at once? It starts to add up, especially if you are someone who consumes alcohol or likes to hit up a lot of happy hours. Again, those costs just add. What are their financial goals or their portfolio? Those two things mixed together with how you want to, again, like answering if your lifestyles are matching up or things of that nature. If your financial goals are different and like vastly different, is that a risk that you want to undertake? Am I probably thinking far too much in like early stages of dating? Yes, but I am also old. So I try and actually think about these things long term. That's just me. Everybody's life is different on how they choose to go about that. Ooh, I have to sneeze. Next things up, we have operational risk. So the definition that I got from the good Wikipedias is risk of losses caused by flawed or failed processes, policies, systems, or events that disrupt business operations. Being a GRC person, love my policies, processes, procedures, people, technology. So I love operational risk to a certain degree. But yeah, what this could look like for you in a more traditional business sense is your lack of business continuity, disaster recovery procedures, so your backups, missing employment or education verifications. I very specifically didn't say background checks because they are inherently problematic, and honestly, so can employment checks and education verifications, but that is just a part of the world that we live in, so I put it in here. As well as just safety hazards. If you work in like certain plants or things of that nature, if there are safety things that run amok, that does definitely become an operational risk to your company. So for your life definition, how do I operate as a person? So for me, a problem that I personally have is making sure I don't lose myself or how I move through the world for this person or these people or whatever. So what does that look like? Missing outdated or irregular STI checking. Yes, I continue to mention this a lot because I do think it is something important that does need to be brought up and talked about, even though it's probably quite taboo, but whatever, here we are. Staying up or out too late. So there have definitely been times that I know I have gone on a date, stayed up a little too late, and then I hated having to get up in the morning to go to work. And so I took that operational risk of knowing that 6 a.m. was going to come fast, and now I'm sad about it because I'd much rather be sleeping. And also a really important operational risk is ignoring any boundaries or red flags you may see in a person as you are maneuvering through the dating stages. That can have long-term effects as you go down the line, because again, we're talking about how you operate as a person. If you are viewing yourself as a business in that way, you want to make sure that you're not compromising anything for them. So there is that. Or who knows, maybe you'll accept that risk of whatever you see and choose to move forward, because remember, risk management is all ultimately about how you plan on handling them, whether that's accepting or transferring or whatever floats your boat or finds your lost remote. Moving right along to the R, which is reputational risk. Vendor definition is the loss of financial capital, social capital, and or market share resulting from damage to a firm's reputation. Now, I will say reputational risk is my most favorite thing on the planet personally, because I feel like people don't talk about it enough, even though we see belows to reputational risk all day, every day, no matter like what you do, where you work, so on and so forth. But again, it's not talked about enough. So I like always making sure that it's like put out there. So some examples: if you're caught sharing information with third parties when you said you wouldn't, that's probably one of the big things that we have seen lately over the years. Obviously, that's something that unfortunately I'm willing to say will never go away. For larger companies, they can afford to essentially accept some of this risk. I won't name any names about companies that have had this problem, so that's neither here nor there. But they can afford to accept this risk and still operate as a business, even with the financial losses that could come along with it, because all these do ultimately tie together and you can lose money. So going back to your financial risk. But for smaller companies, you might not be able to afford to take certain hits. So it is important to make sure that you are thoughtful about how you're going about things. Saying that you have ethical and or non-discriminatory hiring practices, but then expose otherwise. That's another thing that has happened recently in the news. And recently as in like the past couple of years. I won't name names about where that was either, but if you're ever curious, definitely let me know. Happy to link articles and whatever, because it's a thing. And then last but not least, insider trading, embezzlement, affairs. Oh my. Keeping in mind, like, reputational risk is very, very real, and it does have major blowback effects. And then life definitions and examples. So personal impact to my reputation by being with this person. While no one should care about anybody else's opinions on who you date, how you go about your relationship, so on and so forth and the like, let's all be realistic. It has probably penetrated us in some way, shape, form, or fashion as we have gone through life. So you do have to, or you don't have to, let me go back and say it. You don't have to do that. But the thoughts and feelings of your family, friends, or just other people's opinions does have a potential reputational risk. What about things that this person has done in their past? Have they had any run-ins with law enforcement or things of that nature? Is their financial stuff straight? Or have they paid their taxes? Like, these are things that may not necessarily impact their reputation as much as it impacts how you view them. So it is changing your thoughts and your opinions and your feelings, thus having sort of an impact to that person's reputation. So that's the thing to keep in mind, as well as just lifestyle differences. Some people feel very strongly about having children. And if a person's like, oh, no kids for me, I hate kids. Again, that's another thing that's going to influence how you feel about them and impact that person's reputation as they are viewed by you. So that's that one. And then last but not least, technical risk. So the vendor definition is the risk associated with the evolution of the design and the production of a system. So how is that system, how is that vendor going to integrate into your environment? Will they integrate and break everything? Does it even work with your systems? Constantly changing requirements. Anyone who's worked at anywhere has probably dealt with their management, changing their thoughts and ideas on how they should be doing things or what they're supposed to be doing. And there is technical risk that comes along with that. And again, talking about GRC compliance and regulatory obligations, you do have technical risk there. It's about things that you need to be implementing as per that particular entity's thoughts, ideas, etc. So there's that. On the life definition, how do I let that person interact with my digital world? My examples here are funny to me because when I started thinking about those examples, they were a little bit harder to come by. But again, in the digital world, millennials, Gen Z, whatever, if you're a big social media person, these are risks that you undertake. Do we exchange social media? Do you want to see what that person looks like in their social media life? Are they an influencer? Are they a totally different person on social media than they are when you meet them in person? What are they posting? Do you like what they post? What if it's a little weird? What if it's against what you view for your own life? That's some things to keep in mind. Do they grace your social media page? Do you soft launch them? Do you hard launch them? Do you share anything about them at all? Because there does come the risk. If you and that person does not work out, will people then be in your inbox saying like, what happened? Where did that person go? Which can be very annoying, having had that happen to me. I don't like that. So that is something that you do have to take into consideration. And then last but definitely not least, are they Android or iPhone? The reason that is asked is because I've heard that can make or break things, and that does have an impact to whether a person will date you or not. I'm an Android type of gal. I personally don't care, but people are really big about that whole blue or green bubble thing. So there's a technical risk there too. Whatever, it's the life we live. All right, cool. We did all that. What now? You've weighed your pros and cons. You've determined what risk you're willing to accept. You've had your kickoff calls, your dates, your chats, your everything else in between. And then now what's happening? Well, then you sign your services agreement and the rest is history. Ironically enough, yes, that was my real Tinder profile. I used the real Tinder profile of another human. And me and that human are actually in a relationship. And I might as well say it because somebody asked me about it. And hopefully my family doesn't see this yet because they don't know. But I'm even engaged. So woo, fun vendor management, online dating games. Yay. Celebrations all aboard. So yeah, cool. Now let's get into takeaways. Keeping in mind, this is both under the guise of vendor management as well as dating. Someone may recommend a date or a vendor to you based on what they think they know about you. But that could be also sometimes off. So you have to see for yourself what's good for that business, what's good for that person, that relationship, etc. Might not be good for your business, your relationship, etc. So there's that. When dating, thinking about safety, let someone in your life know who, what, when, where, how, all the things, because that is very important. Oh, thank you, everybody. For businesses, as far as safety, make sure you sign an NDA, so a non-disclosure agreement, for a CYA, which is also known as to cover your ass, because you don't want data just out there all willy-nilly that you've been sharing with someone and now they can just go and do whatever. So there's that. So many choices, so little time, so choose wisely. It would be great to just go out and date forever and ever. But you have to be mindful about your time, just like you can spend a lot of time just sitting there idly swiping on folks and just coming up with a bunch of L's. But also with vendors, making sure you use your time wisely. Yes, they will hit you up. Hey, can I take 15 minutes? Can I take 30 minutes? My boss has actually recently told me give no more than 30 minutes. And if they can't get it across in 30, might not be worth, oh, hi, Gusties. Hi, friends. I miss y'all so much. Yay. So yeah, make sure you use your time wisely. I'm thrown off now. And then one very final important point as far as the presentation is concerned, no matter how much pressure someone puts on you, there is no need to rush. There is no need to rush in dating to do something that you don't want to do or that you don't feel comfortable with. Just like there is no need for you to rush to do anything with a vendor that you don't want to do because it doesn't work in your environment or your timelines have shifted or budget or whatever, because we all have lives and jobs. So if you feel pressure, you can tell them no, you can push back, you can sever the relationship, you do what you have to do to protect yourself and your time. Woo! I am done. Hopefully this was helpful to folks. Hopefully this was like fun or entertaining or whatever. I like to have fun with these things and not take myself too seriously or take really much of anything too seriously besides my cat and like my newfound engagement and stuff. So yeah, if folks have any questions, let me know. I'm around for the next, I think, 5 or so minutes, give or take. And yeah, again, thank you for your time. I definitely appreciate it. And I'm Tara. Yay.